someone sent me in my inbox a very interesting video from one Kevin Samuels. For those who may not know, he's a relationship coach styled online figure who gives particular advice aiming more specifically at the black community, more specifically at the American black community. So a lot of what he speaks about would be pertaining to their culture and pertaining to things and problems that they would face more specifically in their culture. But as we would know, those of us living in the Caribbean, a lot of what is in the American black culture filters into our culture also. So we see a lot of mirrored behaviors, and very often when you see a trend taking place in the US, it's not too long before it becomes a trend at some point in the Caribbean too. And either way, a lot of his content has found many fans in and around our islands, especially among the young men. And there's a reason for this, obviously. A lot of young men would be going out there and into this changing world, and they're attempting to deal with a whole new world where practices and customs that they may have been taught at once was the proper way to do things are no longer seeming to be the way things should be done. And this man comes here and he purports to be giving guidance along a more modern footing for the more modern man in the modern dating and relationship sphere. So we're going to take in a bit of the video. The video is quite long. I believe it was 9 minutes in totality. So we're obviously not going to watch the entire video. And it's already sped up. I am pretty sure that the video is sped up. And if you see any captions on the screen, that's not my doing. That's the original video. I didn't write any captions on it. Let's watch it and see what it says.
Live in peace with a man. Can you submit to a man? Can you play the background?
When you say play the background, what do you mean play the background?
Play your natural role.
My natural role in being a wife?
Yes, the background.
I don't think a natural role as a wife is in the background.
Show me where in the world a natural wife is in front.
She's not in front, but she's beside.
No, she's not.
Why she's not, Kevin?
Are you out of your French toast mind?
Don't start. Don't do that now, Kevin. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Okay. Well, when a burglar comes, are you standing side? When somebody's coming to break in the house, are you side by side beside your husband, or are you standing behind him because he's gonna have to take the bullet?
To be honest, I'm standing beside my husband.
Then you out of place.
Why am I out of place?
Oh my God.
Am I too masculine for it?
Oh my God. Hell yeah. Your place. Oh my God. Hold on. Why are you out of place? I'm telling you why you're out of place. Your place is behind your husband, guarding the children.
I could see the point he's trying to make, but the point he's conflating two things. Okay, when you're speaking about beside and when you're speaking about behind, what exactly are you speaking about? Are you speaking in the literal sense? So if you're speaking in literal safety and danger sense, well, of course, the weaker of the two people would be behind. But if you're talking, when someone says behind and beside, generally, what becomes problematic in that statement is that people are thinking about it in positions of priority and importance. So when you say someone stands behind, you're speaking, they may think about it as in a position of least importance or less importance. So that same statement could have been said like the man's position is to sacrifice himself in front of the woman. And that's basically the same thing he's saying. But when he says it like the woman's position is behind the man, it gives it a negative connotation. And I think it kind of purposefully gives it a negative connotation. And okay, I'm not trying to knock anyone's hustle, but I think part of his hustle is purposefully being a bit abrasive, and the shock factor would attract more people in.
Was your grandmother married?
Yes, my grandmother was, but that's the thing with I'm trying to explain to you. We're in two different generations right now. The generation that you're trying to explain to us, my generation is not living like that no more.
Yeah, and that's why you're dying by yourself.
But who says there isn't a man that's willing to take me for him to me for me?
1 in 4 of you will marry. I mean, look, man, the stats don't work for your argument. Prior to 1965, black people were married at a rate of 80%. You go out to any cemetery, you'll see a black man buried next to a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
But you go after 1990, and you'll start seeing black women buried around her children.
Why is that?
Because y'all are unruly, unsubmissive, and out of line. Okay.
I could see why a lot of people would hate this man, and they may hate him to his core. And listen, my problem with him, and I've seen, to be quite honest, I've seen some of his videos before and some of his content before. I've seen quite a bit of it. And what I take from him is that he's 95% correct, But the 5% where he is wrong, he is so abrasive and arrogant with it that it could put someone off. So, okay, the problem that he is noticing, that the marriage structure, and this is especially in the Black American household, the marriage structure has fallen apart. And it has fallen apart much faster than the same time it has taken for the marriage structure in many of the other races to comparatively fall apart. So the Black family is now staying together much less than many of the other races are staying together. And that is a problem. Clearly and obviously that is a problem. And identifying that is truthful. But where I think he went wrong is in his identification of what caused this. Because Black women are unruly, unsubmissive, and out of line. I personally find that out of line, and that is just a vast generalization. And okay, obviously he's speaking to one person in specific, and he may be aiming that critique at that person and that thinking style. But to paint with such a wide brush, obviously you're going to be painting out of the lines, and when you're painting out of the lines, you're exiting where pure honesty will be. The lady then went on to describe that back then in times gone before, many of the women didn't have the same levels of education and the same level of attainment in the academic fields, and that would have held them back more. So this is progressing from that point.
If you want to play the game with me, I'll play it with you. You want to bring up degrees, you're going to have to be specific. What percentage of women get degrees that are in science, engineering, technology, or math? Infrastructure.
I don't think that matters.
That's your problem. You don't understand what's important. You're running on override. Men build the world that you live in.
Oh, okay.
Who built that house or apartment you live in? Was it a crew of women? Who designed the metal work? Who put in the floor, the plumbing, the electrical system, the heating? Who put that in? The car you drive, was that built by a crew of women?
So women are not capable of doing none of those things. None.
You're not good at it. And we're given a choice. Excuse me, because we're given a choice, because women are free today, right? And you're educated, right? Then why don't we see 51% of the construction workers as women? Why don't we see 51% of the engineers as women? Why don't we see 51% of the plumbers, electricians, military, train operators, heavy, dangerous work as women? Because when given an opportunity, women segregate themselves into more comfortable positions. Men do the dangerous work to build society.
I disagree with that. I don't agree with that. And I think that framing of things is just as bad as those feminists that many of us like to criticize. When you try to divide society up with the men in one group and the women in one group, as if any society can function and propagate itself with each group moving individually. Both are needed for our society to carry on and for our society to propagate. So yes, these men may have worked and built these grand things, but there were women that worked and built these grand men. Every man that ever existed would have had to have exited from a woman and had to have been nursed well, not had to have been, but the vast majority of everyone that existed on earth would have been nursed by a woman. As a man, I am not going to attempt to try and become the better nurturer than a woman, because for one, I can't even suckle a young child. I do not have the necessary appendages and anatomy to do such. So it doesn't make sense that I'm trying to compete with a woman over what a woman can do. Men are physically stronger than women. It's so ridiculous, and to me, that's a 16-year-old boy's comparison to a woman. Ooh, look, I'm stronger than you. You just learned that? Wow, congratulations, you're stronger than women. You've done rudimentary CXC biology. There's something more than that. In the interaction between men and women, it isn't just boiled down to who is stronger than who, and that makes me the one in front and makes it seem at least like I'm the one more valuable. That's an incorrect framing, and I disagree totally with that. He brought up the fact that the vast majority of divorces are initiated by women, so women are the ones leaving. This is where it follows from that.
Why do you think women are leaving?
Because you've been sold a Disney fantasy that you should be happy, instead of understanding that you have duty, honor, respect, and you chose to be in a relationship, especially when you decided to make a baby with somebody. You need to stay for more than just yourself. French toast your happiness.
And you can't really disagree with that last part. There has been a lot of selling of dreams, especially to the women in our society, and selling of a different view of relationships, of marriage, of romance, than at least what we're typically accustomed to and what society has been accustomed to since time began. There's a bit of delusion that is sold there. And if you buy too much into a delusion and believe that you can attempt to make this delusion into a reality, you could find yourself very disappointed. A large part of what he criticizes and where he makes his points are on the fact that we're living in a changed world and we're seeing a changing dynamic. a lot of the things that we do in society now, especially as pertaining to male and female interaction, to men and women and how we interact with each other, have never been done before. They're new. And it's all so progressive to say it's great that we have the freedom to do such things, but yes, we may have the freedom to do them, but if it has never been done before, the results of these things are not yet known. Really and truly, some of the new style of interactions we have between male and female, we don't know the long-term result of it. And it seems like one thing is for sure, they aren't going to turn out the same way previous generations turned out. So what everyone needs to ask themselves is, what do you really want? What do I want out of life? Okay, so I am happy with the freedom that we have in our society. I like the fact that I can choose and pick my destiny. So, okay, well, pick your destiny. You have to pick your destiny. You have to decide what it is you want from life. But what you have to know while you decide this, not especially for women, but it's pertaining to women in the context of where he is coming from. You have to decide what you want from life, and then you have to realize that everything you want in life may not be able to go together. Maybe if I want to be a ballerina, I may not be able to be a bodybuilder at the same time. They just may not go together. So maybe if you'd like to pursue your career and reach very far in your career as an independent woman, then you cannot expect to have the same life as people who married at 20 and started with their families. And it's easy when you're young to make that decision very flippantly and say, well, this is what I'm going to do. But at some point in time, when you are in your 30s or in your 40s, you can look back at that point and you can't change the decision that you made. And that's why making that decision is key, and understanding that the consequences would be something that you'd have to live with. So you have to evaluate and see, if I want a more traditional outcome out of my life, well, then I may need to take a more traditional route. If you want to take a hybridized route to find a traditional outcome with a new modern contemporary route and journey, well, you may have to be the pioneer in that, because many people have tried and very few, if any, have found it. And when it comes to Kevin Samuels himself and his style of content, well, everyone's style of content is their style of content. And if it's allowed on the social media platform, well, that's up to them. So I'm not speaking necessarily on whether he should do it or whether someone should take it, listen it. It's up to you and it's up to him. But my personal view on it is, like, when I'm thinking about this, I am a millennial young man. So obviously I had my anti-feminist phase. Probably I'm still in the midst of my anti-feminist phase, where, you like to have a good laugh at the expense of some of the silly things that some of the more modern fourth wave feminists do. And you'd see some of the things that they say and it's going overboard, and you're like, how can someone be so stupid and follow this? And it's so funny, yes. But still, you must recognize at some point in time that people are holding on and following into these ideologies, into these styles of belief for a purpose. And okay, as fun as it may be to laugh at someone and call them stupid, even if they are stupid, let's think about a horde of stupid people and zombies brainless. And every time you see a movie with a zombie horde, it's quite scary and they can do a lot of damage. The fact is, whether you might consider a group of people to be very silly or what they believe to be very silly, it still makes sense to evaluate why so many people may believe in something. And when you look into it, you would actually see that a lot of the problems that these groups, that the feminists bring up, that even Kevin Samuels brings up, a lot of the problems are real problems. The problem with what they say is that the solutions oftentimes that they bring about don't actually bring a solution. If they are attempting to make it seem like the entirety of life can be summed up and simplified just by these simple steps here, you just believe that history was an unending, endless stream of male oppression, all summed up in the patriarchy, well, that's an oversimplification and it's wrong. And if you believe that the problem in the modern world is the modern woman and her inability to submit, and you think that the problem has nothing to do with the modern man and his inability to grow up, then you're also wrong too. And that right there is the problem with half ideas. When it comes to half ideas, whether it be in science, half ideas, whether it be in religion, half ideas, whether it be in politics, they provide a glimpse of truth so someone can hold on to it and grab onto it. So they're spouting something, and when you look into reality, you're seeing that some of what is said can be represented. So, okay, what they're saying may be true, and you hold on to that. But the problem is it's only half of an idea, and the other half is made up of bunk and stuff that wouldn't work week in real life. When you look at the young men who would follow a certain ideology and you see their life and you see how they're turning out, are they now having more successful lives because of it? Are they now having really successful and fulfilling relationships because of what they're listening to? And let that be a test. Let whether it works or not in the long run be a real test. The problem with that is sometimes the long run is too late to actually find out. But you can let me know if you like the video by liking the video and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this. Do you think that Kevin Samuel's attempts and his style at reaching people is going to create for really fulfilling relationships in the long run or not? Share the content if you think it's something that someone would like to listen to, and tune in to the next video tomorrow at 10 a.m. and I'll see you there.